Arthur kept his mouth shut, unable to utter a word in defense, a sly smile lingering on his lips. He watched as his wife, with an air of indifference, coldly chuckled, realizing that she seemed somewhat unfamiliar and formidable. The most frightening part was that he knew his good days were over. How did things turn sour? It all started as a good thing. 3 months ago, Arthur got a promotion and a raise. Riding high on the joy of success, he left the office in the evening. Stepping on a puddle he despised, he didn't mind, striding confidently with a gust of wind in his steps. Meeting a colleague, he almost blurted out, "Off work," instead of the actual news, promotion. Before the money even hit his pocket, he decided to treat himself. He chose a whole smoked goose, spending nearly $200, and picked some snacks for drinking. Back home, he got scolded. "You have so much money, who is going to eat all this? If you wanted to buy, at least give me a heads up. I've already prepared dinner." His wife cut a small piece of apple for their daughter to chew on, stuffed the rest into his hands, and skillfully reached out to twist open the gas cylinder with a clank. The thick soup quickly boiled, filling the air with the fragrance of rising white smoke. His wife continued her nagging, frowning and raising her eyebrows, sounding like a crude and harsh scolding from a rural old lady. Arthur poked his ear with his pinky finger and endured it. After the child was born, his wife had changed completely. She became irritable, scolding him at every opportunity, showing disdain with just a glance. Even when they finally managed to wait for the child to sleep at night and he wanted some intimacy, forget about it, she would kick you and break 3 ribs if you were lucky. He considered himself a good husband, understanding the hardships of childbirth and child-rearing, helping out at home as much as possible, and striving every day to earn money to improve their living conditions. But his wife showed no understanding. Today, in a good mood, he patiently waited by the kitchen door until his wife finished her ranting. Only then did he calmly say, "I got promoted and a raise. Let's improve the food for you and our daughter." His wife paused, and with an expected smile, she turned her head and asked, "Promoted to what? How much of a raise?" "Project manager." With this much of a raise, Arthur gestured with a few fingers. His wife became even happier. "Well done." Arthur touched his nose, lowering his voice a bit. "Well, I have to go to the branch office in Suzhou for 3 months. As expected, the corners of his wife's mouth that had lifted now drooped. Arthur continued, "There's a new project in the Suzhou branch, and they want someone experienced, so they chose me. With the head office so chaotic, if I hesitate, someone else will snatch the opportunity. Besides, it's just 3 months. If I do well, I might get a promotion when I come back. Our daughter is growing up, and we need money for everything. Just 3 months, you can endure it at home." At this point, what could his wife do but support him? To be honest, getting a promotion and a raise is one thing, but Arthur's pursuit of an overseas assignment has another purpose, to relax a bit. Bowing and scraping at the company all day, what's the point? The goal is the satisfaction of returning home to his wife and child. However, at home, his wife scolds him even more fiercely than his superiors. He gets scolded for helping with chores and scolded for sitting on the couch playing with his phone. Basically, breathing is a crime. Distance makes things beautiful. They should take a break and calm down, or he'll quickly turn into a gloomy middle-aged man. His thoughts are simple, unlike those men who mess around during business trips. He's a family man, sweet during courtship, and sincere during the proposal, something he has never forgotten. He arrives in Suzhou and frequently interacts with Bella from the project team. At first, Arthur just thought she looked good and had a mild temper, appearing to be in her early 30s. It's hard to tell if she's married or has children as she never brings it up during casual chats. Until one evening, leaving the office after work, he realizes it's raining and goes back to the office to get an umbrella. The office is quiet, and she's still sitting at her desk, seemingly fixing her torn stockings. Since no one is around, she decides to change. He sees her beautiful fingers delicately pulling up the stockings from the toes, and her slender fingertips glide gracefully upwards. It's as if those gentle fingertips are brushing across his heart. His breath pauses for 2 seconds, and his heartbeat echoes a sigh. What an enticing and distant scene. Arthur tells himself that this is a man's animalistic instinct, just like how women gaze dreamily at idols. He takes a few steps back, then intentionally strides back into the office, making a loud entrance. Bella hasn't left yet. Bella startles, springing up, and her hand accidentally hits her bag, causing everything inside to fall to the ground. She quickly crouches down to pick them up, and Arthur strides over to help. Phone, tissues, keys, sunscreen, compact powder, lipstick. A woman's bag is indeed a treasure trove, full of everything. Arthur jokes, recalling that he used to say the same thing during the early days of dating his wife. All these items are necessary. Watching her tuck a band-aid into the inner compartment of her bag, he thinks she is a meticulous person. Last time, when Xiaozhang cut his hand, she immediately pulled out a band-aid. He hands her a bottle of chewing gum and thinks, no wonder her breath is so refreshing during work discussions when she's so close. Exiting the company's main gate together, seeing Bella sigh helplessly while looking at the rain curtain, Arthur says, I'll give you a ride. In the car, raindrops patter on the windshield, reflecting the flickering orange and gentle light of street lamps. He spots a restaurant on the roadside and suggests, it's getting colder, suddenly craving hot pot. Want to join me? I'll order some good dishes. With a clear soup on one side and a spicy and rolling hot pot on the other, Arthur watches her lower her head to bite a meatball, her hair gently lifted with one hand. It makes his heart itch. He realizes he can't control himself from looking at her. His heart struggles violently, wanting to jump from the bland and tasteless clear soup-like life into the fiery and spicy hot pot. After finishing the meal, Arthur insisted on paying the bill. Bella said it was embarrassing, but she insisted on treating him to a movie. They bought the most expensive IMAX tickets, large cups of cola, and a big bucket of popcorn, as if she needed to repay a favor, feeling indebted to him. She's a good woman, and Arthur is even more captivated. During the movie, Bella only focused on the big screen, but he found her side profile, with its occasional surprises, more attractive than the film itself. Exiting the movie theater, the rain had stopped, leaving a layer of water on the road. Someone kindly placed a few stones to step on. Bella, wearing delicate high heels, hesitated in her steps. I'll support you, Arthur said, extending his hand. His open attitude didn't seem to have any hidden agenda. Being a clean person, she hesitated for a moment before placing her hand on his. Arthur stepped into the water, supporting her as they walked across. Little did he know, this simple gesture made Bella cry. Sitting in the car, she watched him wipe his shoes with tissues. When his gaze swept over her, she quickly turned her head, lowered her eyes, and said with tears in her eyes, Arthur, you're so kind. If my husband had even half of your tenderness, I would be so happy. Your wife must be very fortunate. Those words shattered the last bit of Arthur's struggle. He's attentive and caring at home, so why isn't his wife satisfied? On the way back, they talked a lot. Arthur learned that Bella was married with a child, her husband a small business owner, a rough and gruff type. During her pregnancy, he started avoiding going home, and she endured an unloving marriage. However, the child needed a father, and financially she couldn't do without her husband. Working was her last way to preserve some sense of self. Arthur felt a stir of excitement. Wasn't this a heaven-sent opportunity? These 3 months abroad were a chance granted by fate. She wouldn't divorce, naturally wouldn't break up his family. In this distant place, a brief 3 months of secrecy could provide him with fleeting happiness. Afterward, they could part ways without regrets. It all seemed to fall into place naturally. She wasn't the type to jump into bed with a single sentence, and Arthur didn't have such primal instincts. Their relationship developed quietly, like a secret love enjoyed beneath the gazes of their colleagues at the company. They went on dates, enjoyed fancy dinners at upscale restaurants, had steaks in high-end places, visited popular tourist spots for photo ops, flew to Sanya for beach vacations, and indulged in hot springs at a mountain resort. She had a superior lifestyle, and Arthur didn't want to appear too shabby. The places they went to and the hotels they chose were top-notch. She gifted him an Omega watch, and upon checking, it was worth a whopping $28,000. While shopping, Bella glanced at a bag, and Arthur wanted to give it to her. She declined, saying it was too expensive. After parting ways, Arthur secretly bought it, a luxury item worth over $30,000, slightly more expensive than her gift. When he gave it to her, Bella was pleasantly surprised, and Arthur felt content. Dating was proving to be a bit expensive. Arthur played with his expensive watch, thinking that it's only 3 months, a little indulgence wouldn't hurt. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, a way to make up for his diligence since childhood. Sometimes during work, they locked the office door and kissed passionately by the window. No man could resist such tender and submissive embraces. She melted in his arms as if about to dissolve. With closed eyes, Arthur's heart surged. In the cold winter, 2 warm bodies should be held together. He discovered that he was quite skilled in romance with women. Work, marriage, both were against human nature. This, however, was where human happiness lay. He held Bella's soft hand, feeling the bliss. Even after Bella left, his heart was still tingling. When his phone rang, Bella sent a message from her desk, saying that her heartbeat was still fast, blaming him. Arthur laughed and sent her a 1314 red envelope. After 2 months on the project, Arthur went home for a visit, bringing a bottle of osmanthus wine. In the evening, he invited Bella to his dorm to have tea and watch a movie. Their moments of true intimacy were rare. Only during weekends away from the city did Bella dare to be with him. She feared her husband might find out if they booked a room in town, so it happened only twice. Seeing the end of the 3 months approaching, Arthur thought he should start cherishing the time. The movie's music and visuals created a mood. Arthur ordered takeout, planning to eat dinner and watch it with Bella. Soon, there was a knock on the door. Opening it, the delivery person said anxiously, "Why didn't you answer the phone?" Arthur checked his phone and replied, "You didn't call." The delivery person earnestly double-checked the order and the door number, apologizing, "I'm sorry, I read it as 306 instead of 603. Not long after, Arthur's ordered takeout arrived, but Bella was uneasy. "What if my colleagues find out and tell my husband? No, I better go back early." Arthur didn't share this concern. Nobody in the branch knew about his wife, and she didn't bother about him. She had never asked for his address, and his solitary life here was absolutely safe. However, he also feared being discovered by Bella's husband, who was rumored to be a rough man. If things got messy and became known throughout the company, it might reach the headquarters, jeopardizing his safety. He stood up to see Bella off, and after that, things changed. Bella's private dates with him became less frequent and more perfunctory. When asked if her husband found out, she just sighed. Until one day, he saw Bella getting into the car of the newly appointed deputy general manager. Overwhelmed with shame, he quietly followed them, witnessing the deputy general manager taking Bella to a high-end club and into a private room. He saw Bella, unlike her gentle demeanor in front of him, take off her coat, revealing her graceful figure. She smiled alluringly, fed the deputy general manager drinks, and tried to please him. He also observed the deputy general manager taking her to a mall, buying her an expensive bag right in front of her. She clung to his arm, acting coquettishly. After they parted ways, Bella returned the bag and got the cash back. The scene was too shocking, seemingly beyond his contemplation. Arthur's mind buzzed, and he spent a sleepless night. The next day at the office, he found a pretext to have HR retrieve Bella's file. 2 divorces, childless, from an ordinary family. Everything was an act, tailored to his needs, deceiving his emotions, and tricking his money. Now that a wealthier deputy general manager had arrived, she transformed herself into the type he liked. Perhaps she even arranged for the delivery person to conveniently separate them. Arthur was furious, and his heart and liver ached. Checking his credit card, he was shocked to find he had spent over $100,000 in just 2 months. Upon careful thought, apart from initially paying for a few bills, Bella had hardly spent any money. She had only given him a watch, which he had verified was genuine, though he had no idea where she got it before. He gritted his teeth in hatred but couldn't do anything to her. Everything was willingly accepted by him, he had brought it upon himself. Trusting in damn love was worse than trusting that he was Qin Shi Huang. In the past, when he saw her in a light blue pleated skirt, highlighting her fair skin, Arthur thought she looked as clean as if she had just emerged from the water. Now, even a glance at her in the office seemed to carry a foul odor. Outside women are truly terrifying and malicious. His wife was better, arguments and nagging still came with some comfort, like when she scolded him but still remembered to peel an apple for him. Having endured the last while, he could finally go home. Suddenly, he felt a bit nostalgic for his wife, with a hint of guilt in his thoughts. Before heading home, Arthur deliberately went to the mall to buy a skincare set. When he arrived home, his wife was holding their cooing daughter in one hand, chanting words of endearment like, "Good, good, good," and, "Well behaved, well behaved, well behaved." She was multitasking, cradling the child with an odd posture that looked uncomfortable but seemed habitual to her. The other hand rhythmically beat the egg mixture. Perhaps for convenience, she had cut her hair short, making it a bit messy. Maybe it was because he hadn't paid proper attention for too long, but Arthur noticed that his wife had aged, her skin was dull, and there were wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. Despite giving birth, she hadn't slimmed down, having a robust figure. Yet, she was so patient and tender in caring for their child. Feeling guilty, Arthur thought about how men had a knack for turning women into straw, only to disdain them afterward. He berated himself, silently vowing to treat his wife well in the future, cherish and compensate for her. "Back already? Yeah. Arthur put down his luggage and reached out to hold the daughter, who seemed unfamiliar with him, kicking her little legs and babbling. His wife gave him a cold glance. "Go to the side." Arthur touched his nose and went to tidy up his belongings. After dinner, he took out the gift, wearing a pleasing smile on his face. His wife didn't even look at it, just gave a faint and carried the daughter to take a bath. Arthur knew he had been neglecting his wife and daughter recently. Later, when the daughter fell asleep, he quietly entered the room in the dark. His wife lay facing away from him. As soon as his buttocks touched the edge of the bed, he heard her monotonous voice say, "Get lost." Summoning courage, he embraced her from behind. The wife remained motionless, coldly stating, "What are you touching me for? Go find someone with a good figure, beautiful and gentle." Arthur chuckled, "What are you talking about?" Wife remained silent, and Arthur dared not make any rash moves, fearing that she might extract more information from him. He spent the night on the living room sofa, pondering but couldn't figure out what went wrong or what his wife had found out. The next morning, after a sleepless night, Arthur made a thoughtful breakfast. His wife ate without much enthusiasm, and after getting her fill, she wiped her mouth and casually sent him a few messages, appearing nonchalant and nimble. When Arthur opened his phone, his heart skipped a beat, nearly giving out. A photo showed his Taobao purchase history, probably taken secretly by his wife during his last visit. The delivery address was his dormitory, no wonder. Additionally, there was a video capturing Bella in his room. The delivery incident he thought was accidental turned out to be orchestrated by his wife. "Last time I came back, I saw you staring at your phone, laughing like a brain-dead idiot. You bought so many gifts, not cheap, and that bottle of osmanthus wine. Since when do you like sweet drinks? I want to see what kind of honey jar you're immersed in," the accompanying message read. Arthur was thunderstruck, unable to utter a single word in defense. To salvage his marriage, Arthur had to make concessions. Financial control was handed over to his wife, he wrote a guarantee, and they went to the notary office to notarize their property. If he cheated again, they would divorce, and everything, car, house, child, would go to his wife. He would also pay child support monthly. Although he could accept these terms since he never intended to divorce, the scary part was that his wife now controlled his salary. She gave him only 250 yuan as pocket money each month, making the veins on his forehead pulsate. "Wife, 250 yuan is not enough. If it's not enough, take the bus. The bus is inconvenient and time-consuming with transfers." "Not my problem," his wife said coldly, seemingly devoid of any emotion. Arthur realized that his wife no longer loved him. He dared not object, otherwise, she would say, "All right, I'll send the photos and videos to your parents, let them settle it." Arthur instantly yielded. He knew his good days were over. He would be short all his life, and although he had a family, he was merely a money-making machine for his wife and daughter. If his parents found out about his affairs and extravagant spending, they might disown him. Without his salary card, Arthur didn't know how to repay his credit card debt. Luckily, he still had a watch. He found a second-hand watch shop, intending to sell it to manage the situation. The shop owner said, "This watch is fake." "Nonsense. I've had it authenticated before," Arthur panicked. "How did you authenticate it?" He pushed the box and pointed, "Here." The owner glanced, "The packaging is genuine, but the watch is fake." A thunderous shock resonated in Arthur's mind. He staggered out of the store, holding the broken watch, not knowing whether to keep it or discard it. He stood on the crowded street, gazing at the gloomy sky, clenching the bag in his hand, and shouted 3 times, "Damn! Damn! I'm dumped."